Okay, the third part about talking about testosterone for dummies. I'm going to go over a few things. Regular TRT, and we got users. These are guys that don't have scripts, they're just using it. Cycling, there's new testosterones out there, and how humanofort comes into play in so many applications. Okay? If anybody has not watched the first two parts of this, please do. I talk about SHBG. I talk about the hypothalamus. These are all things that play a role in this, and I'm not going to take a bunch of time to explain SHBG and the hypothalamus, things like that for this video. This video, we're just going to talk about how the dosing works and point out a lot of the follies in the system for a long time. Now, normally when you go get a script from a doctor, they give you a once or twice a week shot if it was cypionate. Cypionate is gone in 5 days. It peaks in 12 hours. Metabolites are detectable for up to 2 weeks. That's where a lot of doctors had thought that you could take a shot and it'd be good for 2 weeks. Since a lot of them do once a week, and then a lot of them do twice a week now. None of it's right. It's when we talked, remember talking about hypothalamus, SHBG, things like that. So here's what first happens when a doctor puts you on, let's say, 100 milligrams every Monday and Thursday. Okay? So we got Monday here, Tuesday, Wednesday, we got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right there. Okay? Let me write that a little bigger so people aren't squinting at it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Okay. So this day, let's say you take 100 milligrams. And by day 5, that's gone. That's why they a lot of times now go to the 2 shots a week. A lot of people are still doing 1 shot a week of like 200 milligrams. And we'll go into some of this, but let's say now we're doing another 100 milligrams here. 12 hours after that first shot, your levels spike. Okay? 12 hours after the second shot, when these ones are still coming down, your levels are going to spike even higher. At 100 milligrams, your levels are probably going to be 12 hours later, like 4,000. Now, for anybody that understands, the normal threshold for a man is around 1,000, maybe 1,100. When this goes too high, it suppresses the hypothalamus, as we've discussed, and your body starts to release SHBG, steroid hormone binding globulin. And it is aromatizing to estrogen to bring these numbers back down around the 1,000 nanogram per deciliter mark. Now, doctors don't ever say, come in a week and let me check your levels 12 hours after your shot. They say, come back in about 12 weeks, we'll check your levels and see where we're at. By week 9, your SHBG and estrogen conversion has caught you, and your levels are going to be between 800 and 1,100. Depending on when you've taken the shot or whatever, your body has figured it out. And the doctor says, perfect, we'll keep you right there. This is why people think a couple hundred milligrams a week is TRT. The thing is, we can get more out of it for less, and I'll show everybody how. But what happens now, your hypothalamus is suppressed. The whole side of the pituitary that runs off the hypothalamus is suppressed. The adrenal cortex is suppressed, and your nuts are shrinking. Okay? Your ability to even produce testosterone now is nil. It's going away. And now that your levels are in the high to normal range, you feel better than you did when you were at 200, for example. But you don't feel anything like you did the first 8 weeks. The first 8 weeks you went on that testosterone, you felt like fucking Superman. You wanted to eat meat, chase the wife around the house, and work out, and that's it. And that's because your levels were like literally bouncing around 3,000. And the SHBG and estrogen conversion over the course of 8 weeks brings it to normal. And that's when the doctor checks you out and goes, perfect. But you know what? Your estradiol is a little bit high. So we're going to put you on a 0.5 milligram of anastrozole every other day, and we're good to go. Time goes on. This number eventually, your body counteracts stuff. A lot of times this number eventually drops down to 800, 700, something like that. And the doctor will even bump you up. Give you another 50 to 100 milligrams a week. Come back 12 weeks later, your levels are 1,000. They think, yeah, estradiol, that's gone up a little bit. Let's increase the dose of the estrogen aromatase inhibitors. Okay? That's what's going on there. You're suppressed, and that's why they put guys on HCG. Humanifort outperforms HCG. That's been proven. So this is why when guys just use stuff, these guys just go by dosage. Well, you got to take so much of this to get this, or so much of this to get this, and these guys think that the 300 milligrams is TRT, and they think you got to double that to even get anything. They have no idea what's going on with their blood work. And another thing that's most important is free testosterone. Free testosterone is the testosterone you have to use for working out and attaching to androgen receptors to make the muscles bigger. Free testosterone is what you have to use for sex, things like that. Okay? As soon as that SHBG starts going up, your free testosterone starts dropping. There's several scales to measure free testosterone, but I like to go off the one that's from 8 to 35. Okay? This is the pretty standard one that's just free testosterone. There's some that go from like 30 something to 155 and things like that. That's because there's another, other than SHBG, there's something else that binds to testosterone that can under certain circumstances, let it go. So that's not, like if you were to work out and need a little more, it could actually detach and let you use a little more. But we're going to go off the regular scale here, so 8 to 35. But I'll see guys doing a couple hundred milligrams a week, either one shot or 2 shots, and they're at 900 nanograms per deciliter, and their free test is 28. I've seen it where their free test is like 12. And they're at, nobody's paying attention to that free test. A lot of places don't even give you a free test in your blood work. Okay? Now, after you take a dose of cypionate or enanthate, it is gone literally in 5 days, and it peaks in 12 hours. So there's this little bolus dose that hits your bloodstream, and it starts trickling it into your system, and it's a 12-hour point that reaches a peak. Okay? And when you first start out on the correct dose on day 1, at hour 12, you might be at 250 nanograms, right? But what happens, this comes up and then it slowly goes down to day 5, right? So then day 2, we got her about here. We take that microdose. Now we're going to go up in 12 hours and it's going to reach, 450 nanograms. Okay, we're going in there. By the time you've done this 5 days in a row, your levels at the 12-hour mark will hit 1,000. You'll get up in the morning, and the thing is, since it's gone on day 5, at that point, day 6, you're just keeping the dose going because that shot from day 1 is completely gone. They're all trickling down. Now you take that dose and you're just maintaining that dose there. Okay? So now you get up and let's say you can take it either right before you go to bed or you could take it right away in the morning. I tell people we got to do this depending on our workout. If we work out in the afternoon, take it right away in the morning. If we work out in the morning, take it right when you go to bed at night because then it'll peak closer to your workout time and you'll have more testosterone to use for your, the androgen receptors that you activate in the muscle when you're training it. Okay? So from morning, let's say morning, you might be around 700 nanograms. 12 hours later, this is going to be 1,000 nanograms, okay, as long as you haven't missed a dose. And then it's going to go back down to like that 700. And that's what's going to happen 24 hours a day as long as you continuously take this little microdose. And we use little insulin syringes. You can't even feel them, okay? Doctors have this all wrong, okay? Unless there's some that we've schooled, and once in a while I find a doctor that blows my mind and actually does this correctly. Now, if you've been on too high of a dose for too long, your hypothalamus has shrunk, and our androgen receptors, and anybody that doesn't know what a receptor in the body is what any hormones attach to, and it causes a signal for the body to start doing some things, right? Just like insulin, if we're taking too much insulin, the insulin receptors don't function properly, okay? And this is from a lack of growth factors normally. The same thing happens when you've been either abusing steroids or your TRTs anywhere from 200 to 400 milligrams a week forever. It doesn't matter if you're taking 300 milligrams a week or 1,000 milligrams a week. You're going to have, when you're suppressed, you're suppressed. It's the same amount of suppression. The only difference I can see that would be a factor would be the desensitization of the receptors. Okay, there might be a fact that they don't respond as well if you've been doing the higher doses. But so when guys come off of these ridiculous doses or these ridiculous schedules, something that's very critical is humanofort. Humanofort contains the growth factors that will redevelop the hypothalamus. Now that the hypothalamus isn't being suppressed, it's on, and those growth factors will hit the receptors and it'll signal the hypothalamus to grow back. That side of the pituitary gland will start functioning properly. The adrenal cortex will start to heal, and there's two different things going on. The nuts are not only being told to work, but there's growth factors in humanofort that develop the testicles in the womb, so you're able to actually develop testicles again after you've done this for a while. It also contains activin, which is a really powerful substance for men and women for fertility. Okay, so the humanofort also acts as a ligand to these receptors. A lot of people, I've talked about ligand before. You can look it up. I did a video with Emmerich on it. A ligand acts, let's say a receptor. Let's say this is a receptor. And this receptor sends signals all over the damn place at a certain degree, like there's a dimmer switch on it, right? With that lack of growth factors, some of those signals aren't working right, and they're dummied down, okay? It's like getting type 2 diabetes, where you don't respond to insulin the way you should. The same thing happens with androgens. Your receptors don't respond to the androgens the way they should. So if you're stepping off of, and I'm going to be doing some videos with some IFBB pros that we have pulled off steroid cycles and put through our rehabilitation and then put on our blast and cruising, and they are looking the best they ever have in their life and competing and doing TRT doses, okay? But this is the humanofort within 8 weeks of being on the right dose daily will restore the hypothalamus function, the testes, the adrenal cortex, and it'll act as a ligand to that receptor. So that receptor at a cellular level, some of those growth factors, all the growth factors known are in humanofort. It turns that receptor on so it runs at its full degree. So if somebody comes off 1,000 milligrams of test a week and starts taking this microdose daily, they're not going to notice shit because their SHBG is clear up here, their estrogen's conversions up here. They are as desensitized as they can get. But there might be like a 3-week lag time where you got a bit of an estrogen rebound and you got to wait for the SHBG to come down. But adding the humanofort within a few weeks, the hypothalamus function, the receptors, the testes, everything will start to go. And after 8 weeks, everything is fully restored and functioning. And you will respond to these microdoses, and your levels will be at 1,000 every day, and nothing will be suppressed. Your testicles will function normally. Your mental clarity will be there. You'll actually have a higher sex drive than you did when you were suppressed. You'll feel much better. And the humanofort is part of that. And when it comes to recovery and anti-aging and stuff, the humanofort is far more important than testosterone. The humanofort puts everything in the body in place. The only thing that's left from that point is adding the testosterone, okay? So then there's short periods if for, let's say, 8 weeks, we wanted to take more. Now, here's the trick I tell guys, take it as you want. But I just had a buddy do it. Go get a script from the doctor. Okay, they put me on 200 milligrams a week. Perfect. So he takes so much a day and maintain this for a while, and you stockpile your testosterone. And then we can do what we call a blast, or only 8 weeks. Because after 8 weeks, no matter what you're taking, you could be taking 800 milligrams a week. After 8 weeks, your body will figure it out and take you down into normal range, and it will actually even get worse with time. You get less sensitive, your numbers will keep dropping. But when your body's functioning normally and we bump the dose up, we can have you at like 3,000 for your total, and on the scale that's 8 to 35 on the free test, you'll come in the 50s. Let's say you'd be like 55, 60, somewhere in there, okay? And this will go on for 8 weeks. Then the body, slowly catches you, and at 8 weeks, you got to go back down to that maintenance dose, keep taking the humanofort. And when you're blasting, it's very integral to take the humanofort so your receptors don't become desensitized. Okay. This is a general explanation of how this dosing should be. I'll get into some other applications because now we have some decent oral testosterones coming out, some lingual ones. We have a problem with people that are very, very suppressed. They start taking the sublingual and they feel good for a while that testosterone's in their system, but as soon as it wears off, their levels are, and they aren't the same as somebody that just came in for the first time, had lower levels, and then, just started taking a little extra during the day. Because we're finding that more so than going over this threshold, it's most important at night when we're sleeping. When we're sleeping, our testosterone levels are supposed to decline, and we have to be under that level or the body thinks something's wrong. Now, during the day, we can get spikes, like if it's spiked to 2000 for an hour, that wouldn't be a big deal. The body, if it's midday and your testosterone spikes to 2000 for an hour, your body's not going to, that's going to be a blip in the radar, right? Now, if you take enough where you spike at like 4,000, I'm seeing evidence that it might still suppress the hypothalamus. There's still like a threshold where at some point the body's still going to be like, whoa, too much, But doing it this way, these guys can live to be 100 years old and continue to do this. It might not be as fast as jumping on a bunch of stuff and continually just going up and up and up. Because after 8 weeks, let's say you're on a couple hundred milligrams, after 8 weeks, your body counteracts that. You're not gaining anymore. This is where guys freak out. They think coming on, dropping the dose, well, 200 milligrams got me this physique, so I can't take less. And that's wrong. Because at this point, now your levels are normal and you're just maintaining. So you bring your levels down to this 1,000 nanograms per deciliter with the humanofort, you're going to maintain it. You might lose a couple pounds of water weight and a little less, we produce more blood, things like that. If we put on 5 to 8 pounds, we might lose a couple pounds of it, but in an 8-week period, you're not going to lose any muscle. You keep training hard and eating right, as long as you're training hard, eating right, taking humanofort, right? And then after 8 weeks, you can go up again, back and forth. And you can continue to grow on these doses over and over and over again. Now, a lot of what happens with guys that don't know any of this stuff and don't do any of the blood work, the users, as we would say, which I've used to be one, you start out on like 400 milligrams a week and you'll put on a bunch of weight, and a lot of guys are afraid to come off of that. And that's when the side effects all start coming in. Your triglycerides are thrown off, your blood's too thick, your blood pressure starts going up. That's all the hypothalamus stuff we've talked about. Again, resort back to that video if we have to. Any guys sometimes will come off and go back on, which is smart, but you don't have to. Now that we know with the 10 like the microdosing daily, we don't have to come all the way off. We can restore ourselves and still have healthy levels and not crash so damn hard. But they think this is how big I got on 400 milligrams. I'm not growing anymore, so I need to take more. So then they're taking 800 milligrams, okay? And then they start growing again for like 8 weeks or so. Side effects slowly are getting worse. But after another 8 to 10 weeks, whatever, you're stagnated again. Guys think, well, this is how much I need to take to get to this size. And they freak out. Taking any less, I'm going to shrink. And that's the thing is, their body has now caught them, and their levels are only 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. But they don't know that because they never do their damn blood work. All they do is listen to their buddies that talk about you have to take so many milligrams of testosterone alongside of some of this other crap and these other substances. And most of them all do the same damn thing. You can get just as big on testosterone as you can on anything else. Okay. A lot of them are just harsher. I'm not saying like competitively, my competitors, if there's a few compounds that we can get away with sneaking a few in toward the end in low doses and things like that. But for the most part, it's testosterone is all that really matters. But then, there's guys that then they'll finally come off the 800 milligrams, let's say, and they crash because they're on nothing. They're not taking Humanofort, they're not microdosing or whatever. They crash, they feel like shit, they're crying, they have no testosterone levels. Then they freak out and they jump back on. Well, a lot of times when they jump back on, they jump back on 400 or 500 up to 800 milligrams, right back to where they were because they think that 800 milligrams is what got them to where they're at. So now they're at this 800 milligrams, and they might, because they took the 4 weeks off, they might get some gains for a little bit. And then before you know it, they're at 1200 milligrams. And a few years go by, and now their average is 2000 milligrams. And their receptors are not functioning properly. Their levels are not as high as they think they are. And the thing is, a lot of guys say, well, he's bigger than me. He must be on a bunch more stuff than I am. It doesn't work that way. We only have so many androgen receptors to activate in the muscle. And once those are full, they're full. And the extra stuff is just wasted. Okay. SHBG eventually catches that, estrogen conversion, all that kind of thing. So then we got guys, literally just heard the other guy, some jackass running around the gym telling guys that they need to be on over 3-4 grams of shit. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to prevent. And I've proven it over and over and over again that this does not need to be done. So no matter, it doesn't matter if they're all the way up to a couple grams, eventually their levels are somewhat normal. They just have shitload of side effects. And there's guys that are on a couple grams that they don't even grow anymore. And if they listen to Emmerich and I, and we walk them through the process, they actually begin growing again, and they think, oh my God, and I'm healthy. They can actually go to get their blood work done, and the doctor doesn't freak out, So that's part 3 there. Little explanation of that. We talked about the Humanofort. We talked about TRT usage. Touch base a little bit on the new oral testosterones, and I'll get into some ways that, guys, I've found that works good with that, but we'll do that on another time. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed this. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.